Today we're going to be talking about system requirements and installations. When you buy a computer, they normally give you the technical specifications. So they tell you how much hard drive space there is, how much memory it's got, and all these things are very important to know because when you buy software, your software needs to meet those technical specifications. So when you are buying a software program, there are system requirements. What is it that you need on your computer to be able to run that piece of software? So when you are talking about these requirements that is listed on the software box or the software program when you install it, that they're talking about the minimum computing requirements. So that's the bare minimum that you need. Obviously, if you've got better than that, then that's fine, but you cannot have lower than those specifications. The top three specifications that they normally talk about are the hard drive space. So you need to know how much space you can store that program on your computer. You obviously need to know how the memory that you need, the RAM that you need to run that program, and obviously the speed of your processor, if it is suitable to run that program. There are other types of specifications that you do get. Some programs, like for example certain games, require different screen resolutions. Maybe there's a special type of hardware device that also needs to be used, or maybe even there's a graphics card that need to be used. Now please take note of the following. When you use these system requirements, you'll find that games tend to have higher specifications than your general productivity software like Word or Excel, obviously because games use more resources. Also, when they specify the hard disk space part of the requirement, that sometimes is not just the only amount that you need. So for example, if they say it's 3 gigabytes to store that program, that's not including any other files that program could create. So for example, if you install Word, it's not that 3 gigabytes that is required to install Word is not including all the Word documents that you're going to create using the Word program. So you also need to take that into consideration, that you need a little bit more space than what they specify sometimes. And also you can probably run software with lower CPU speed or lower RAM than the specification, but then the problem is that the program might be very slow, it might be non-responsive, or might even crash, and you don't want that to happen. Now when we install software, it's quite a process. You can't, most of the time you don't just put it on your computer and it works, you actually got to install it. So how do we install software? First of all, we're going to look at the different types of ways of storing it. You can obviously get a physical media, whether it's on a CD or a flash drive. You're finding these days a lot of companies aren't actually giving out CDs. They're actually allowing you to download the program from the internet, so that you get this online download and you can install it that way. There's a special program called an installation file, which will put all the files that you need to save on your computer in the right place, and it'll make shortcuts for you and everything. It does everything for you, these installation files. You also get these other online files that you can get which don't have installers. They're either in a zip file, which is a compressed file, and you can just copy them to wherever you want to store that program, or it's just an exe file, so just one file to run. So you do get certain programs that don't need installation files. Now when you installing your software, just remember it's quite a long process, and different software will have different requirements, so you must just go through this process. When you install software, it's going to ask you if you agree to the license agreement. It's sometimes to protect the company from people copying their software. They have a product key which is normally included in the box of the software. You can choose the folder where you want it to be installed. You can say what type of installation. Some installation types you get a custom installation or a recommended installation if you want the full version or just certain features. So you can choose what type of installation. There's sometimes other extras or some other programs that you need to install with the program. And then there's checking for updates. Sometimes when you install a program, there might be new updates available, so you can check for updates. Obviously you need the internet for that. And then you can normally register online, and if you register online, then they can send you updates and send you information and make sure that your copy is legit. And sometimes they'll give you a tour of the program. Now not all of these features will be shown when you install software, but most of them will come up. Now I'm going to attempt to do an installation quickly. There's this game that I've got that I haven't installed on my computer yet called Batman Arkham Asylum. This is what the cover looks like, and I'm going to install it on my computer. Just to show you what the back of the actual game box looks like, I've downloaded a picture of it. If this is obviously it's quite a scary game and only recommended for teenagers, so please, if you're not a teenager, don't play the game. But if I go right down and I go look at these right down to over here on the game, you can see the system requirements. So like I said earlier, this is what your computer needs to have in order to run. Now there's system requirements and system recommendations, especially with games or high graphics programs. They normally give you two options. Now the requirements is this is actually what you need to run the game. Okay, so if you've got that, you can run the game. But this is what they recommend you should have, and you'll notice the recommendations are normally higher than the system requirements. This is because this is what they want you to run the game so that the game runs really well. So just remember, for certain programs you get system requirements and system recommendations. As long as you got that, it should work. I hope that my computer meets all those needs. We're going to try install. If it doesn't, it's going to obviously give me a mistake or error. So I'm going to install the program now. I'm putting the CD in at the moment. And so we're going to wait, and something should pop up. There should be some sort of autoplay thing that's going to pop up. I can hear the CD-ROM sound in the background. Hopefully something will pop up. There we go. So I'm going to run the auto run. That's the installation file. Look at the pretty little Batman symbol. So we're going to run the installation file. We can select our language. Obviously I don't know those languages, so we'll stick with English. And go OK. Ooh, there's our mean Batman. So we're going to install our game. There's normally some README option file that we can read that can tell us some details about it. I'm going to see if this installation will work. So let's try and install the game. And normally some sort of file should pop up. It's asking me if I've got permission to do it. So I'm going to say yes, I can do. Please do it to my computer. I'm allowing you to install on my computer. Obviously, if you don't have installation rights on your computer, it won't allow you to do that unless you put in a username or password. So let's have a look. There we go. We can see it's busy installing. And this is the installation shield. This is the program that it will do the installation for me. So I go next. So it asks me, do I agree to the license agreement? No one ever reads all of this, but they say you should. Who knows, they might be saying that in 10 years time they can take my house. I won't know because I'm just going to say next. Hopefully it comes up with some more options. Oh, my minimum requirements. My computer has passed all 4 tests. As you can see, there's the graphics memory, the CPU and all that. So my computer's just passed the test, thank goodness. Asking me about the firewall exceptions. This is required by the game, so I'm going to say okay. They don't really give me a choice. Remember I talked about the different types of installation? Yeah, I'm going to do the easy install. So that should be, I don't want custom because then you need to know what you want to actually specify. I'm just going to do the easy install. And now it's going to install. And this could take a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and when another message pops up, then I'll show you what it looks like from there. Well, that took a very long time. It took about 25 minutes for it to install. What happened afterwards was it popped up with a message saying there were some extra programs that I had to install. So I installed that, or did it automatically. And then after it finished that, it just opened up the game for me. So I quit the game because it was taking up too many resources. But I know that it's worked. On the back of my box, I do have a product activation key, which is what I could type in. Sometimes they do ask for that. It didn't ask me for it this time, but some installations it will ask you for some sort of code when you buy a product, especially when you buy it from a box. There's normally some code that you can type in. So that's my installation, and the way we can check that it's installed correctly is if I go to my start bar, there's this little, you can see it's all red here, which tells me that something's new has been installed. And there's Microsoft Games for Windows Live, and I click on there, and there are my games. And if I click on that, it will allow me to play the game, I assume. There's nothing else that's installed. That seems to be all. So there we go. My game is now officially installed. Now I just have to click on that to start my game. And now I can finally live my long fulfilled dream of saying, I am Batman. If you don't believe me, then I just want to point out something that you've never seen me or Batman in the same room. So maybe it's true. Anyway, the next thing of the topic, we're going to talk about how do we uninstall a program. Now, to uninstall a program, well, first of all, before we uninstall a program, we need to understand why we are uninstalling a program. You see, when I install a program, let's take, for example, you install a Word program, like Microsoft Word. Now, what's happening is not only is that file being saved in a particular location, but there are shortcuts that are created. Sometimes they'll be put on the desktop, so you can click just on the desktop. Sometimes they're in the start bar menu. Sometimes there's also what's called file association. And what that means is whenever there's a file that can work with a Word document, and then says any file, and it's got like a list of extensions, like a .doc or a .docx. Any time that your computer comes across that file, it will tell it to open it up in Word. Now, if we just went to wherever the program was saved and just delete it, then it's not actually uninstalling it. Then what happens is those file associations, those shortcuts will still be there. And the only problem now is because you've deleted just the folder, is that those links in that will not work. So it's better to uninstall a program. So just remember that only the PC, on the PC you need to uninstall the program that's running. So we need to go to what's called an uninstall program or uninstaller, and sometimes it's called the add remove software section. I'm going to show you what it looks like on this computer. Okay. The essential things to remember though is that these programs can store files in many different places. Sometimes it's not just in the folder that you think it is. So as I said before, the uninstaller will remove everything that includes any shortcuts and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to uninstall a program. For those of you who don't know, that's my fluffy puppy called Baxter. He's on our desktop today. So I'm going to go to the Start menu and I'm going to go to the Control Panel. And when you go to the Control Panel, all the special programs that you can do on your computer, your management of your computer is normally done over here. If you've got the administrator rights, you can do it. If not, then you're going to have to find someone who can do it for you. So I'm going to go look for something that says add or remove programs. There's nothing there that says that. There's add hardware, but then if it's not under add or remove programs, it's probably just under the word programs or software. So let's scroll down. Oh, there's programs and features. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to double click on that, and it's going to load all the programs that are installed on this computer at the moment. There we go. As you can see, I've just installed Batman Arkham Asylum. And there we go. It's installing all the others. Showing me what has been installed. So I'm clicking on that. You can see the publishers. You can see the date that it was installed, which is today, and how much space it's taking up. Another feature that sometimes I like to see is if I go here to More, I'm going to click on Used. If I go right down to Used, what it actually does is quite a nice little feature here. It actually tells me how often I use that program. So I've got a lot of programs which I rarely use, so maybe it's a good idea to install them. I'm going to find a program which I don't want to use anymore, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to look, and I'm not finding. There we go. I'll use this one. My photo book. I don't remember ever using it. I can just double check. Installed in 2009. I rarely use it. It's quite small. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that program, and over here on the uninstall button, just click on that, and it should uninstall. Now there's the asking for permission if I can do it. Now some programs, obviously the bigger the program, the longer it'll take to do it. Yes, we do want to remove it, please. Just get rid of it. And as quick as that, it has been removed. So now it's not in my list. Now I should have more space available. So that has been our lesson today. We've talked about the minimum requirements that you need to install software on your computer, and to make sure that your computer meets those requirements so that it will work. And also, how do we do an installation, and if we don't want the program anymore, how to uninstall it.